For decades, there's been this unwritten rule in global finance. If you want your currency to rule the world, you have to set it free. But what if the world's second biggest economy is trying to rewrite that whole rulebook? Today, we're going to dig into China's really ambitious plan for its currency, the renminbi, and how a new digital tool might just change the entire game.
All right, here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the old rules of money, then we'll look at the big puzzle of China's economic power versus its currency's surprising weakness. After that, we'll uncover a major tech clue with the digital yuan, reveal China's unique strategy for going global, and finally, we'll explore what this new world of money could actually look like.
Okay, so first up, let's just lay down the conventional wisdom. What does it traditionally take for a currency to become a global heavyweight, like the US dollar? Well, the thinking has always been that a country has to have a fully open capital account. What that means is money can flow in and out without any major restrictions. See, investors need to know that they can buy and sell a currency easily, whenever they want, on huge liquid markets. It's how the British pound and then the US dollar got to the top. It's really the foundation of the whole system we have today.
And this right here, this brings us to the central question of this entire explainer. China's capital account is famously not open. We all know that. And yet it has these really clear global ambitions for its currency. So is it even possible to get to the top of the currency ladder without playing by the rules everyone else has followed for a century?
Let's move on, because this is where things get really fascinating. When you look at the actual numbers, you find this massive contradiction, a real puzzle at the heart of China's position in the world today.
Okay, look at this. What just jumps off the screen here is the huge disconnect. China is an absolute giant in trade. We're talking 15% of all global exports. And yet, its currency, the renminbi, or the yuan or RMB, whatever you want to call it, it punches way, way below its weight. It's used in only about 2.4% of global payments and makes up a tiny 3% of the reserves that central banks around the world hold. That's the puzzle right there.
And believe it or not, the puzzle actually gets even deeper. China isn't just a trading power, it's a massive financial power too. It has become the largest single creditor to the developing world. It's lending out more money than the World Bank or the IMF. So this financial muscle just makes the weakness of its currency even more confusing. Why would a country with this much economic clout have a currency that plays such a minor role on the world stage?
Now, the plot really thickens when we bring in a new piece of the puzzle, a huge technological upgrade that's coming to China's official digital currency, the ECNY. So this digital yuan thing, it didn't just pop up overnight. China's been testing this for about a decade. By November of 2025, it had already processed a staggering 16.7 trillion yuan in transactions. But the date you really want to circle on your calendar is January 1st, 2026, because that's when a really fundamental change is set to kick in.
So what's the big deal? Why does this matter? Well, starting in 2026, the digital yuan is basically getting a massive upgrade. It's going to stop behaving like simple digital cash and start acting like a real bank deposit. It's going to pay interest, it'll be insured, and it's going to be fully integrated into the banking system. This makes it a much more attractive, much more serious financial tool, not just at home, but potentially abroad too.
And this tech upgrade isn't just a cool feature. Nope, it's a key piece of a much larger and, frankly, pretty unconventional strategy. And this is where we get to the core of it, how China plans to make its currency a global player without just tearing down all its financial walls.
And here it is in black and white. This quote is from a recent academic paper, and it directly challenges that rulebook we talked about at the very beginning. The authors are arguing that China doesn't need to fully open up. They believe it can forge a totally different path to make the renminbi a major reserve currency.
Okay, so how are they actually planning to pull this off? Well, the strategy pretty much rests on a few key pillars. First, using their immense trade and investment links to get partners to use the RMB. Second, giving direct policy support through things like currency swaps. And third, using these carefully managed offshore markets while only very, very slowly and cautiously opening up their domestic ones. It's all about creating access, but on China's own terms.
Let's zoom in on those currency swaps, because this part is really telling. See, when the US Fed uses its swap lines, it's usually acting like a financial firefighter during a crisis, making sure there are enough dollars to go around. But China's central bank uses them proactively. The goal for them is to make it super easy for other countries to get their hands on RMB to finance trade and investment with China. They're basically embedding their currency right into the real economy.
And the scale of this thing? It is massive. Just look at that number, 39. That's how many central banks the People's Bank of China has set up these swap lines with. That makes over 3.7 times trillion renminbi available. It's a quiet but incredibly powerful piece of financial infrastructure that they are building all across the globe.
All right, so where is all of this headed? What's the ultimate goal of this grand strategy? And what are some of the really fascinating, maybe even unintended consequences of building this whole new system?
Now, it's really important to get this next point. The ambition here probably isn't to completely knock the US dollar off its pedestal. Instead, the goal seems to be creating a more multipolar currency world. One where the renminbi sits right alongside the dollar and the euro as one of several major global currencies. It's about building an alternative, not necessarily a total replacement.
And this leads us to a fantastic paradox, really, at the heart of this whole thing. For this entire strategy to work, to convince the world the renminbi is safe, stable, and convertible without fully opening up, China's central bank needs a backstop. And guess what that backstop is? The US dollar. To guarantee the RMB's value, the PBOC has to keep holding and using massive reserves of its main rival's currency. To build their own system, they have to rely on the old one.
So what we're seeing is China patiently, piece by piece, building this whole parallel financial architecture. It's powered by trade, by technology, and by a unique state-led strategy that just doesn't play by the old rules. And that leaves all of us with a really powerful question to think about. What happens when the rest of the world starts to plug in?